Welcome back to the alignment assignment, where we take a look at each of the alignments in D&D. Now, this week's is Lawful Neutral. It is a far more dynamic alignment than it gets credit for most of the time. It doesn't need to be stodgy or binding. And speaking of stodgy and binding, remember, alignment is a guide. It is not a straitjacket. Your character's actions determine their alignment. Their alignment should never determine their actions. So, let's take a look at Lawful Neutral. We'll break it into its two halves. You have law, and then you have neutrality. But a character is going to value one of these sides a bit more than the other. Now, what does law mean? Law champions order, planning, and discipline. It is quite literally the laws of the land. It values tradition and stability. Now, what does neutrality value? Well, this is balance, and they're not beholden to the idealism of good, nor the selfishness of evil. Neutral characters are able to look at a problem and come to a solution, not necessarily for the good of all, but not for their own personal power and gain either. They're able to look at a problem and solve it with maximal efficiency to end this conundrum. So, when a character values one over the other, what does this mean? What if they value law the most? Well, to this character, it is duty and it is order that is paramount. They will champion the law of the land, because it's a law, damn it. They will create order first and foremost. They may unfortunately be caught in certain situations where they must punish someone who they like, or they must absolve someone that they find abhorrent to them, because that is the law of the land, and that is their duty. You see, you can't go around ripping up cards that you don't like, because then the whole house comes crumbling down. Characters who value law the most, they realize the slippery slope of allowing some things to pass. None shall pass when a character values law the most. Now, what about a character that values neutrality the most? It seems like a strange thing. Ha! I am a champion of neutrality. I will now smite you with my gray beams of indifference. Meh. Well, what this means when a character values neutrality the most is that you must remember it is neutrality on the good and evil scale. They are not beholden to good or evil. They will realize that sometimes you must use brutality or benevolence in equal measures. They will realize which one of these is the best solution to this particular problem. They will know when to use the mailed fist, and they will know when to use the velvet glove of kindness in order to solve the problem for the long term and for maximum benefit. Not necessarily for everyone, not necessarily for themselves, but to keep order and to keep things going. Now, what quandaries will a lawful neutral character face? Think about this. Think about a city that has just been liberated from hobgoblin tyranny and slavery and rule. Now, the hobgoblins, knowing that they cannot take this city back, they've burned everything in their wake in their version of total war. Now, the lawful neutral character needs to bring this city back into order. They need to bring food and shelter and safety to the civilians. But how do they go about this? Now, the lawful neutral character is approached by the Thieves Guild. And the Thieves Guild says, we know secret ways, we know the smuggling paths, we know how to get things to people and how to get people out, or to get the people you want, to get them in. We know how to sneak about in the night and murder those hobgoblin agents that are still causing problems. But this is the Thieves Guild. They are the opposite of law and order. But they're offering stability. They are offering order. What does the lawful neutral character do in this situation? If they allow the Thieves Guild to help them, will they be beholden to them once everything is back to normal, once stability has been reached? Will the lawful neutral character be beholden to a criminal organization? What would your lawful neutral character do when the elven mafia gives you an offer you can't refuse? Now, who is lawful neutral in popular culture? The following characters will produce a bizarre menagerie, and this will show that lawful neutral can be a dynamic alignment. Now, the first is Rorschach from Watchmen, and he is a vigilante obsessed with justice and morality and duty. He is a vigilante who will sometimes kill the criminals that he goes after. But he does not do this for personal gain. He does not do this to protect the innocent. He does this because he is compelled. He does this because he is obsessed with justice, because the criminals have broken the law and they must be punished. This is a lawful neutral action, and this is a lawful neutral character. Now, since Game of Thrones has now entered its second season, we've seen the excellent example of Stannis Baratheon as a lawful neutral character. Now first, a bit of history on him. In Robert's Rebellion, in the war that precedes the series, Stannis Baratheon was besieged on his island castle. He was surrounded by enemies and he was sure to die. But then a smuggler in these island lands named Davos Seaworth didn't want to see Stannis and his men killed, even though Davos Seaworth was a criminal himself. And so he smuggled in supplies and arms and armor and food and onions. He smuggled these in to save Stannis Baratheon. And then Stannis Baratheon broke the siege. And after the battle, he found Davos Seaworth and he raised him up as a knight. And he gained the nickname of the Onion Knight. And he gave him land. And he gave him all these rewards because he had saved Stannis and his men. But he also cut off the tip of each of Davos Seaworth's fingers, because this was the punishment in the lands for being a smuggler. And so that is lawful neutral. You'll be rewarded and you will be punished in accordance with the law of the land. Another character from Game of Thrones is the Machiavellian with a capital M character of Tywin Lannister. Now this is interesting because I can't decide if he's lawful neutral or lawful evil, and here's why. He's definitely taken some evil actions, some that you will have already seen and some that you will see later in the show or in the books. And it is interesting because he is doing these evil actions, well, not everything's evil, but he is taking some evil actions in order to make sure that House Lannister is the most powerful house in the lands, to ensure the safety and ensure the future of his house, his children, and the people in the Lannister lands. It's an interesting thought. If someone takes some very questionable actions, but they're doing it for the good of others, is that neutral? Is that a neutral action? Maybe. Now, for historical figures that are lawful neutral, the knights and samurai of old are lawful neutral. They are hired killers, yes, but they are expected to be loyal. They're expected to be loyal to the death and defend their lords and keep the land safe, and also to smack peasants over the head and collect gold. Now, speaking of samurai, one specific samurai of Miyamoto Musashi had the goal to be the greatest swordsman that Japan had ever seen, and he achieved this goal. He didn't pursue swordsmanship in order to kill people with great efficiency. That would be lawful evil. He did it just to perfect the craft. And in fact, after seeing a particularly bloody battle, he vowed to continue dueling but never take a life again. This is lawful neutral. And that is a lawful neutral act, the absolute dedication to the absolute perfection of a craft. The gray elf that sits in his wizard's tower and he pores over all books so that he may learn all spells and expand his knowledge. That is lawful neutral. The dwarf who creates the greatest arms and armor and jewelry that the world has ever seen, not caring who uses the armor. Are they tyrants? Are they heroes? It doesn't matter. He is just seeking to perfect his craft in the ultimate way. Another lawful neutral character would be the halfling chef, who seeks to perfect the ultimate recipe for his bumbleberry pie. All these characters are lawful neutral. Lawful neutral society. What is it like? Well, what lawful neutral likes the most is society. You can go out in the forest and set up laws, traditions, and a feudal system for all the squirrels and badgers in the forest, but it's not going to do you much good. Lawful neutral is the alignment of civilization, and it may, in fact, be civilization's oldest alignment. Back when people stopped being hunter-gatherers, and they built the first villages, and they built the first walls to keep out the owlbears and the direwolves of the forest. This is when people began to have laws, to have traditions, to have a hierarchy in their societies when they had leaders. Because everyone knew that they had to band together, they had to work together to make sure that they were not owlbear poop in the future. This is when lawful neutral truly began. So what is lawful neutral society like exactly? It is efficient, it is ordered, it is safe, and it is successful. Now, happy citizenry is not the main concern of a lawful neutral society. That's lawful good. But the citizens are not exploited like chattel. That's lawful evil's bag. No, the laws of a lawful neutral society, they are harsh, but they are fair. They keep society going. Lawful neutral society, it enjoys tradition, it enjoys laws, it enjoys hierarchy. It is also, however, very resilient to change, and this is one of lawful neutral's weaknesses. They may not be able to adapt in a situation where they need to, when the lands around them, when magic around them, and when perhaps the gods themselves begin to fall from the sky. They might not be able to adapt quickly enough to succeed in every situation. Now, in most settings, the dwarves are portrayed as being lawful good, but I think they are lawful neutral. They exemplify lawful neutral very well. They have strong traditions, they have a strong work ethic, and they have a very strong efficiency. And all of these say lawful neutral to me. Now, in a lawful neutral land, the art, the culture, the plays, and the magical items, all these things that are part of the culture, they're not going to necessarily be drab. It's not, the lawful neutral society is not, it's not square, baby. No, they just make sure that the art and the culture, they serve the purpose of a society. They glorify their leaders, and they glorify the way that you should act in their society. Those are where the legends and the heroes will be, ones who act in accordance with the values of this particular society. Now, lawful neutral societies are very successful. The lawful good societies are a bit too concerned with having happy citizens and fair citizens to really be at peak efficiency. Now, lawful evil societies are too concerned with stuffing the pockets and the gobs of their lawful evil leaders, and this proves problematic. Lawful neutral society is all about the society, and so they keep on chugging. Everyone works as a cog in this society, but it doesn't mean that every person is some faceless drone that just works on and on. There can still be happy people in a lawful neutral land, and they can still have artists, and they can still have culture, and they can still have beautiful things. Now, lawful neutral society, despite being neutral, is probably in favor of having good citizenry, because it is the evil creatures that flaunt the law so violently at times. Now, justice is done in lawful neutral society not to punish evil, that's lawful good's bag, and nor is it done in order to keep order for those who are in power, that's lawful evil. Justice is done in a lawful neutral society because they broke the laws, damn it, and that needs to be punished. Examples need to be made, and you need to know that if you act a damn fool, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down in a lawful neutral society. Now, that said, any alignment will find themselves welcome and unmolested in a lawful neutral society, as long as they keep their head down and keep their nose to the grindstone.